While the criminal justice system focuses on making criminals repay their debt to society, often they're not alone in serving a sentence. A seminar in Newcastle today heard prisoners' families, especially children, also pay a high price. Some suffer behavioural disorders, problems at school, and in extreme cases, can be drawn to a life of crime themselves.
Sometimes, and especially say with adolescent boys who say perhaps if they've got a father who's been sent to jail for something criminal, get hooked on the bravado of all that and start dabbling in crime themselves.
Those who work with the families of prisoners say they are largely forgotten by the system. They want a set of minimum standards governing family access and the environment in which family visits are conducted.
The lack of consistency between jails and between even jails of classification or between officers within the same centre, the lack of that consistency is an ongoing problem.
Prison authorities agree there's room for improvement.
We certainly have a long way to go, but I think it's fair to say that a fair bit of consideration should be given to what's been achieved already.
The organisers of today's forum say keeping families together is one of the best guarantees that prisoners will avoid a life of crime once they're released. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Inside, the atmosphere was less volatile, although many protesters made their presence felt with empty seats. The controversial MP made her entrance amidst rapturous applause before launching into a speech with a stinging attack on Newcastle Council, the Labor Party and minority groups, claiming they tried to silence her.
Tonight's exercise in freedom of speech is costing us $16,500. Tonight's exercise in freedom of speech has required the protection of 350 police.
Denying that she was racist, Ms Hanson told her supporters that unemployment was directly linked to immigration.
Criticism is not racism.
Police were forced to eject 3 hecklers from the auditorium who did little to ruffle her feathers. Ms Hanson singled out manufacturing as the key to creating jobs. She believes the BHP steelworks could be saved by workers digging into their own pockets and setting up a joint venture to run the plant themselves. She also called for increased tariffs on imported steel to safeguard the industry. Ms Hanson told her supporters to settle their differences at the ballot box, not the boxing ring.
There is a new girl on the block. And she intends to give them hell.
The survey involved 133 students who graduated from the engineering faculty last year. 97% had found jobs. One graduate was earning an income of $78,000 a year.
The average salary of our graduates this year was between $35,000 and $40,000 a year, with a few extremes where we have graduates earning in the 70s, $70,000 plus.
With the projected national shortage of engineers, it's encouraging to know that graduates from Newcastle Uni are highly regarded.
Our faculty is also very well regarded as one of the best engineering faculties in the country. And this is reflected in the employment of our graduates, who don't just work in Newcastle, I might add. They're scattered all over the country, and for that matter overseas as well.
Traditionally, engineering is a male-dominated industry, with only around 10 to 15% of female students undertaking tertiary studies.
And I think it's a great shame that, in general, female students aren't necessarily aware at high school that this is a very viable career option, and we would like to encourage them to consider that.
Over the past 40 years, the faculty has fostered close links with industry, and there's a strong focus on research.
We have a lot of interaction again with industry in the research that we do as well, and it's again one of the strongest research faculties in the country also. So we're not only very proud of our teaching, but we're also very proud of our research.
It was a symbolic opening, a fragile globe at the mercy of many races. But the final message was one of hope, a united people bringing the earth back into harmony. It's that optimism that has brought the Pathways to Sustainability conference to Newcastle this week. It's the first time the world's environmental leaders have come together since the Rio Earth Summit 5 years ago.
Today, we are here to open a new chapter of the Rio dream.
The Newcastle conference is determined to get the ball rolling on Local Agenda 21, a plan born at the Rio Earth Summit but which failed to get off the ground. The agenda is about implementing sustainable development initiatives at the grassroots level, helping councils to bring about a greater environmental awareness while making them more accountable. Premier Carr announced changes to the Local Government Act. Councils will now be required to consider the principles of ecologically sustainable development when carrying out their responsibilities.
The total impact, environmental impact, of what a council does ought to be the subject of report to ratepayers and the community.
Meanwhile, across the road, another summit of the grassroots kind is being held in conjunction with the conference. Called Actions for Sustainability, it gives community groups a chance to have their say on how the earth, air and water should be saved. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
You are the rescue helicopter service.
Thank you, Amy. We hope that's the only time you ever do this. Speaking to Mr. Williams, the budget at the moment is nearly $4 million for the operation that we've.
Not every mother is pleased to see the Life and Death Motorcycle Club arrive to pick up their daughter, but Mrs. Ma couldn't be happier. Her 15-year-old daughter Lauren has Schwachman syndrome, and these bikers are riding to the rescue. The rare hereditary disease affects the pancreas, interfering with her digestive system and stunting her growth.
I can't eat normal things, so like when my friends go out and they have takeaway food, I can't go out with them and have takeaway food like them.
Right now, all Lauren wants is a chance to talk to others with the condition. A conference in America in 2 months' time will provide just the opportunity. Enter the Life and Death Motorcycle Club, its members organising a bike and car show in June to raise funds for the trip.
We feel we share a collective responsibility for the welfare of the youth in the community.
But at the moment, Lauren's gearing up for a more immediate challenge, a hoon around the block on a Harley.
According to local government expert Jim Toms, the transition from a still city to a sustainable city is achieved through the minor and not the major players. Speaking from experience, Mr Toms told the Pathways to Sustainability conference today that Hamilton in Canada overcame massive redundancies in its steelworks during the 80s with clean and green small business.
Because of the old industrial tradition and the fact that has been a lot of pollution in the past, we've had a number of small businesses develop that are experts in remediating sites.
Mr Tom says Newcastle would be further ahead by encouraging local people to set up shop on the BHP site than big industry.
It's really tough to go out and find a large employer to come in and replace a chunk of employment that disappears. When you think about it, every time some company says they're going to build a new car plant, there are thousands of suitors.
Echoing those ideas was Dr Ernesto Ciroli, a keynote speaker at the conference. Having worked around the world developing local economies, Dr Ciroli says the key is harnessing the ideas of the people.
Entrepreneurs create the economy, not governments. You can prepare for entrepreneurship to occur, but you cannot create the entrepreneur.
Simone Cobb, NBN News. Two Newcastle trumpeters were proudly blowing their own horns today as they prepared for the performance of a lifetime. Fiona Watson and Hayley Woodward will play with the guru of jazz, James Morrison, and the Hunter Symphony Orchestra.
I think it's fantastic. I mean, playing with the greatest trumpet player in Australia, it can only be exciting.
It's a great opportunity. I've just graduated from the Conservatorium, so it's a great step to enhance my career as well.
The concerts will feature a wide repertoire of music, including classical pieces and contemporary hits from popular musicals like The Phantom of the Opera. While the trumpeting legend has played to packed-out audiences in Newcastle before, it's his first performance with the HSO.
It's a very good orchestra. You need a good orchestra to be able to cross styles like they're going to be doing and playing some jazz, some classical.
But the highlight for James will be the trumpet trio performing the flashy number Bugler's Holiday.
There's only one thing better than a trumpeter out the front, and that's 3 trumpeters out the front.
The concerts tonight and tomorrow will be held at the Workers' Club. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
It's thought 2 staff working in the hospital's maternity ward may have been carrying whooping cough, the critical period, the end of last month.
Well, it was basically the last week of May, and it may have been between 100 and 200 mothers and babies.
The 2 suspect staff have since been sent home on leave. It's yet to be confirmed that the 2 staff in question even have whooping cough. Even so, the hospital has written to mothers suggesting that they and their babies have a check-up.
We wanted to act very cautiously, and
the hospital says so far there are no reports of mothers or babies coming down with whooping cough. The scare highlights the increased risk of infection. Since 1995, cases in the Hunter have ballooned. Already this year, the figure is just short of 1996, and the worst of the winter months is yet to come. Immunisation rates in the region are disappointingly low at just 70%. Medical authorities blame fears about the side effects of the vaccine, but say they can be avoided.
there's a new vaccine, an Acela pertussis vaccine, which can now be used in people who used to have bad reactions with the old one. So there are alternatives now, and I think that should always be considered.
At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
Breast cancer is the leading cause of death in women aged 35 to 55. This year, 8,000 females will be diagnosed with the disease. For those in the high-risk category, there's hope. The International Breast Cancer Intervention Study aims to find out if the disease can be prevented.
This is as important as it gets. We've had some major advances in the last 20 years, but if we can prevent breast cancer, that is a goal that will impact on literally hundreds of millions of women worldwide.
With a family history of breast cancer, 58-year-old Lynn Harden volunteered for the trial. Now, 5 years later, special recognition for being the first woman in the world to finish the experimental treatment.
I have a daughter and granddaughter and daughter-in-law that I love dearly, and I thought, well, even if it's only to help my family, it's a start.
Miss Harden is one of 1,000 Australian women and 3,000 worldwide who are testing the effectiveness of the drug tamoxifen in preventing the onset of the disease. The drug has already been used to treat breast cancer, but now it's being tested as a preventative for women who haven't had the disease.
We're hoping in this program we can demonstrate a 30% reduction, but with a million women a year getting breast cancer, even 10% would be very worthwhile.
Researchers are hoping to conduct their first analysis of the results in the year 2000 and after that combine their findings with those from overseas. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Shadow Cabinet ventured into Labor heartland today with the BHP closure at the top of its agenda. The opposition believes the proposed 107-hectare free trade zone on the Steel River site may be one of the keys to creating new jobs when steelmaking shuts down in 1999. The FTZ would give export businesses a range of tax exemptions. The plan has so far been given a cool reception by the Howard government.
We believe that this is a turning point for the Hunter, both economically and politically, and therefore we'd be prepared to support it, and we'd ask the federal government to take a fresh look at it.
Mr Collins also used the visit to attack the Carr government's electricity industry privatisation. While the opposition supports the sell-off, it believes all, not part of the expected $22 billion from the sale, should go to paying off state debt.
You can't put just $13.5 billion into debt retirement, leave a massive debt, for example, with unfunded superannuation liability, which is an extra $15 billion that Michael Egan hasn't quite got around to mentioning.
And worried Karua residents have been promised their town won't be bypassed by the Pacific Highway upgrade under a coalition government.
The best answer to Karua's problem is to put another bridge in and obviously give free flow of the traffic.
The RTA is yet to announce its preferred option for the Karua section of the highway. Phil Hind, NBN News.
Despite some well-publicised belt-tightening, councillors last night gave themselves a $3,450 pay rise. Fees had originally been set at the minimum of $10,000. However, a recent survey showed councillors have been working an average of 36 hours per week.
We're very concerned that councillors are properly supported in the significant work that they're doing for the city.
Councillors will now receive more than $13,000 for their services. They could have voted for $15,000. The councillors' pay increase hasn't exactly won praise from all quarters. Some small business owners have labelled it as little more than hypocrisy.
If we're in such dire straits and we're supposed to be cutting our costs, that the councillors are now saying, well, they want to get a pay increase, we think that it's just, it's certainly not on at this period of time.
Small business owners claim council should be trimming fat from its internal operations and not cutting back on funding for community projects.
The council's got to keenly look at their budget and see where they can realistically cut the costs the same as every other small business has had to do.
Meanwhile, council is looking at selling a parcel of land adjacent to Blackbutt Reserve at New Lambton Heights to help fund its budget. The bushland on Carrington Parade may be subdivided with a potential value of $500,000. Already there's opposition to the plan.
And it's just blatant land grab to gain money to put into things that won't be durable. And I think that council should be taking a far greater responsibility in relation to this.
The sale will be discussed by council in a fortnight. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
While the thoroughbred industry at Scone continues to soar, its beef and wool counterparts are struggling to stay afloat. 12 months ago, the district came out of a devastating 5-year drought, but with low commodity prices, the financial nightmare for farmers continues.
People are really beginning to wonder, is there light at the end of the tunnel? Are beef prices going to pick up, and will we ever become profitable?
The deadline for exceptional circumstances was to have expired yesterday, which would have seen drought relief payments to more than 150 households cut off. But thanks to the efforts of people like Caroline Long lobbying the federal government, that assistance has been extended for another 3 months.
It certainly is their bread and butter, yes. It's the money that's going to put the food on the table, for sure.
The Minister for Primary Industries, John Anderson, will announce a new integrated rural policy package in September when the assistance runs out. It's hoped a welfare scheme for struggling families will be included.
Well, we're just hoping that the government will recognise the need for welfare payments for farmers, that there's just equity in the system and that is a unique case that is recognised and that the farmers are just really given a fair go.
Simone Cobb, NBN News.
This time, West's plans to spend $20 million over 18 months, expanding the club's area by half as much again, including 3 new function rooms, larger food and games areas, a much larger gymnasium and a new administration complex. But it does not end there.
We're locking that into a very large motel development. The motel's going from 57 rooms to 140 rooms, and we're putting in a 38-metre heated pool as a major attraction for the weekend market.
Several houses in Lambton Road already owned by the club will be demolished, meaning the only other establishment on the Lambton, Hobart and Tauranga Roads block will be the General Roberts Hotel. The Hunter Valley Research Foundation estimates the development will mean 500 regional jobs and pump $100 million into the local economy. But West's General Manager, Philip Gardner, says the project did have to be scaled back because of the state government's new poker machine revenue arrangements.
Well, before the tax we were going to spend about $30 million. So we've had to scale back the project we're doing back because of the tax. But we honestly believe that if we don't get into it and we don't provide better facilities for our members and better facilities for Hunter Valley, we will lose those customers to Sydney and to other marketplaces.
Work will begin immediately council approval is gained and is expected to be completed by September next year. Also, Wests will next week be taking over the ailing New Lambton Bowling Club, further expanding the facilities it offers to its 41,000 members.
"39-year-old Angela Foley died in October 1995, a week after she was bashed in her Belmont home. Police haven't charged anyone with her murder, instead referring it to the coroner. At the start of the inquest into her death last year, her estranged husband Robert Foley was named as the prime suspect. Today, his son Robert Foley Jr. took the stand and was immediately granted immunity from prosecution in relation to his evidence. He was asked several times whether he thought his father had attacked his mother. At one stage he replied, "I sort of thought it might have been him, but I can't see him doing anything like that." The 19-year-old said he was surprised today to hear that his father had wanted to replace his mother with her younger sister from Bougainville and had made sexual advances toward her. Although numerous witnesses have told police that Angela Foley left her husband because he physically assaulted her, Robert Foley Jr. said he'd never seen anything like that. Robert Foley claims he was with his father the night his mother was attacked. He denied he was lying because he was fearful of his father, but said he was afraid that his younger brothers and sister might be split up. The inquest will continue at a later date. Jodie McKay, NBN News.
Fears that fish caught in Lake Macquarie could be poisoning people have grown in recent years. Now finally some findings that should put locals and the seafood industry at ease. After 12 months of studying a range of species in the lake, the New South Wales Health Department says that fish and crabs can be eaten in normal quantities. What this means is an adult can safely eat up to 6 average-sized pieces of fish a week, or 1.35 kilograms, without affecting their health. The study examined the presence of heavy metals in the lake, selenium identified as the only metal in sufficient concentration to cause concern.
And the important thing to remember is that is not the threshold for toxicity. That doesn't mean you eat more than that, you get toxic. The toxic level is likely over 5 kilograms.
New South Wales Fisheries will embark on a campaign to ensure commercial fishermen and recreational anglers are aware of the possible risks.
We as the department will work with the Health Department and EPA to make sure that the information is made available, that the community is aware and that there is no misinformation distributed.
While the EPA has introduced tighter licensing requirements to help reduce selenium levels in the water, they say it's time to focus on other catchment problems.
We're seeing very significant progress here, but we do have to address the soil erosion and the stormwater management issues.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Running every time from dummy half. Simon's 1 point behind.
And John Simon hit at the other end of the field, whether the Jason Smith nothing play on their last tackle could be the most crucial one of the game. John Smith, a lovely drop goal exponent.
The Calgary Stampede usually conjures up images of bucking bulls and cowboys, but this group of Singleton High School students are about to experience a lighter side of the famous event. The Marching Blues have been eagerly practicing for more than 12 months for the biggest tour of their lives. The band of 53 musicians is about to embark on an 11-day